Good evening. Before we get started, I'd like to welcome you to our League of Women Voters candidate form for the candidates who will be on the ballot for the November 5th mayoral election. This keeps swinging around. You know that we're in St. Paul in 2009, there was a vote to change our method of voting for the city council and the mayor's office. So on your ballot, what you're going to see is ranked voting for the mayor's office. And then on the other side of your ballot, there'll be the school board candidates, and that is not ranked. You just vote for 3. When you vote for ranked voting, you choose your number 1 choice and mark the oval next to that name. If you have a second choice, then you go to the second choice. You cannot mark the same person first, second, third, fourth, because it won't be counted. Just your first choice and then your second choice with another candidate. So you all have this brochure from the Ramsey County elections. If you already understand the new method of voting, pass it on to your friends and your colleagues. Yes. That's correct, up to 3. That's right. That's right. It's a plurality vote. Any other questions regarding the new method of voting? Now, I would like to introduce our moderator for the evening. She's Beverly Driscoll. She is not a constituent in this race. The League of Women Voters really tries to be as nonpartisan as possible. So she is from the League of Women Voters of White Bear Lake. So, Beverly.
It's an escaping microphone here. What the heck? I wonder if you let go. We'll keep track of this. So thanks for everybody for coming to this, because I think it's very exciting for the candidates to have an audience, and I'm hopeful that we're going to all learn a lot about what's going on in their minds. And certainly I already have a pile of questions, so there's a lot of questions that all of you have. The way that we're going to work this is that the candidates will have 2 minutes for an opening statement. We will have questions from the audience, and we will then, and each question, oh my gosh, even more. We will have 2 minutes per candidate for each question. Obviously, on the question they could pass, they probably won't, but they could. And then we will have 2 minutes at the end for a wrap-up by the candidates. It would be good if you would hold your applause till the end. That would make it a little bit easier. We'll have more time for questions and answers. Let me think if there's anything else we need to, I think that's it. Let's just get started, because this is the most important part of what's going on. And we did have a little drawing to see who could go first. And where did I put that? Yep. And Sharon Anderson won that little effort. So could you start, Sharon? And the timers are somewhere. Where are the timers? Okay, timers are there.
8 of spades was the high card, I'm telling you. So, thy rod and thy staff will comfort you. My rod is the Constitution and my camera, and I also am a registered gun owner. My staff is my cane or my umbrella. Don't be vain, walk with a cane, and if you come at me, I'll stick you in the eye. Now, I'm going blind in my eye, from medical malpractice of Dr. Diane Tanabe, the flap on the laser. Be careful if you're going to get laser. And the other is bubble wrap. This is therapy for kids. You know, for me too. Anyhow, that's my 2 minutes. So, Holden, I am happy, but I'd be happier learning how to belly dance, okay, driving my Harley. So your ad's in the paper, great. I am a happy person. I think we all have to be somewhat optimistic and happy because you've all had your own situations. Okay, my biography, I'm homegrown, oops, careful. And I'm a VA widow, whistleblower. I'm learning in high tech. I'm a blogger, real estate entrepreneur, and on and on and on. Okay, I'm running for the seat to expose high crimes, misdemeanors of my buddy here, Chris Coleman, taking a dive and a bribe to case fix in a case. And he knows this. The United States Justice Department, the House Committee on Oversight on Government Reform, Tom Perez, I only got 30 seconds. Tom Perez is now the Secretary of Labor. They blew a case on the Magner case, and Magner works with DSI, which I want to abolish. He makes over $100,000 a year, and he lives in Stillwater. I'm sick and tired of these people that take our money, our taxes, and they live someplace else. My 30 seconds up? Oh, well. I'll give my other minutes to somebody else.
Okay, we're going to just go right down the line.
Thank you. Well, thank you. First of all, thanks to the League of Women Voters for hosting this event, and thanks for everyone coming out. It is important that we have a conversation about the future of the city of St. Paul, and I'm honored to be a part of that conversation. I have been so honored to have the privilege of serving as mayor for the last almost 8 years. For a St. Paul kid, to rise to be the mayor of the city that he loves and is so passionate about, and more importantly, the city that he's raised his kids in, is just the highest honor that you could possibly have. And I think in the last 8 years, we've really accomplished a lot together. We have accomplished a lot because we've worked across sectors. We've worked with our philanthropic community. We've worked with our community groups. We've worked with all of our partners to move the city of St. Paul forward. We moved it forward by building one of the most important public works projects in the history of the state of Minnesota, the Central Corridor. As a result of that construction, we have over $1 billion of construction already underway in the corridor, and lots more to come. We've revitalized downtown St. Paul. I think downtown St. Paul is as exciting and healthy as it has ever been, certainly in my memory, and it's only going to get better with all the new housing, the Lund's grocery store, and some of the other amenities that are coming online. We're doing it across the city of St. Paul, the east side, where new families are realizing it's a great place to live and a great place to buy a house. And great new restaurants like Ward 6 are popping up that are enhancing the quality of life in those neighborhoods. And we're going to continue to do it in Highland Park, where we'll see the expansion or the redevelopment opportunity of the Ford site, which I think is one of the most important redevelopment opportunities that the city of St. Paul, that this region, and perhaps the state of Minnesota has ever seen. But we're going to do it together, and we're going to do it because we listen to the community. We're going to do it because we have a vision for the future and because we believe in the future of the city of St. Paul. It's been my honor and privilege to be the mayor for the last 8 years, but it will be my honor to serve another 4 years.
Thanks, Chris. Okay, good evening. My name is Kurt Dornfeld. I am an employee and a resident of the city of St. Paul. I have worked in the street maintenance division of Public Works for the past 10 years, and I have lived in St. Paul for over 40 years. I am not a career politician. I am a blue-collar worker. I am not a part of the elite who make the rules. I am someone who is forced to obey them. I am not someone who refuses to do his job during the last government shutdown. I am someone who wakes up every morning to do his job, to support his family and contribute to his community. I am not perfect. I do not claim to be. I am in touch with St. Paul and its needs and the problems, the real problems faced by St. Paul as a whole, the working class as well as the rich. I am not an expert, as I mentioned. I am not a career politician. After what we have seen in Congress, that's the last thing I want to be seen as. I am running to be mayor of St. Paul to offer a new approach and fresh set of eyes a new perspective, a perspective that best represents the interest of all the people of St. Paul. Again, I won't be perfect, but you can always count on me to do the right thing for the city of St. Paul. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Tim Holden. I just want to say thank you to everyone for coming this evening, and I want to first and foremost say thank you to all the veterans and service people that we have here this evening. We owe a lot to you, and I want to say it's my honor to thank you, and we appreciate you coming. Across the board this evening, we have a lot of issues in St. Paul that we would like to talk about and have addressed. Issues that we have that range from poverty to education to people not listening and respecting one another. And these are core issues that the city of St. Paul really needs to address and deal with. Right now, across the board in the city of St. Paul, we have 1 in 4 people living in poverty, which is not acceptable for the capital city. We have a 25% vacancy rate downtown, which is not acceptable. We have children not graduating, children of color not graduating, one of the worst achievement gaps in the nation. That's not acceptable. We need to work together, not about party, not about Democrat, Republican, green, blue, black. It's about everyone. Everyone needs to come together and work together to solve the problems that we have. We have many, many issues. And the only way we solve these problems is if we open up our mind and listen to all the different possible solutions when there's a problem, and then use common sense to say this is the best answer. This is what we should do to solve this problem. This is what we should do to try and address this issue. It only happens by listening to one another and giving each other respect, listening to one another. We can solve problems by taking 1 minute just to listen to someone. You don't even sometimes have to do anything. Just listening will solve problems. Giving each other respect, and that's not happening. That's why I'm running for mayor. I'm running for mayor because I'd like to see the city of St. Paul become the best city in the world. I was born and raised in St. Paul, lived on the west side, live in the Hamlin Midway now. I'm a business owner, 20 plus years self-employed, small business owner, and I believe as far as being a politician running for mayor, you need to know how to run a business successfully for 5 years. You need to know how to market, sell, produce, and collect. These are all extremely important functions that you need to know how to do to run the city. And in order to do that, you need to know how to do these things.
Okay.
Thank you for your attention. Thank you tonight.
Okay, let's start with a question that actually deals with the basics of this, and we will then start with you, Mr. Coleman, and then go down the line this way. And they essentially are saying, so what's the role of a mayor? What makes a mayor great? How are you going to be able to make that kind of an impact on the city?
Thank you very much. I think there's a couple of characteristics and qualities that are required to be an effective mayor. First of all, you have to have a passion for the city that you are the mayor of. I have gotten to know mayors not only that have served in St. Paul in the past, but have served in cities across the United States of America. And the common denominator of the mayors that are successful is an unabiding passion for the city in which they serve. And I will challenge anyone to have more love for the city of St. Paul than I do. As a matter of fact, when I hate to confess, my Minneapolis-born wife started dating, she said, if I marry you, I'm never going to live in Minneapolis again, am I? And I said, well, that's the price you pay, in addition to being married to a Coleman. But the fact of the matter is you have to have that, because then you care about every corner of the city, and you're going to work towards every corner of the city. You have to have courage. Being mayor means making some tough choices, and we've had to make some tough choices. These have been extremely difficult years economically. We've had challenges with the mortgage foreclosure crisis that has impacted every community in this country. We've had very serious challenges trying to make sure that we try to close the achievement gap. We've had issues that confront you that you had never been able to anticipate would ever occur, but you have to have the courage to confront those issues head on. You have to be collaborative. You have to be willing to work with the city council. I would say that when I came into office, the relationships between the previous mayors and city council members was extremely strained, if not quite frankly broken. I have worked extremely close with the members of the city council. We have built coalitions to move the city forward, and it's been very effective. And you have to work with the broader community, whether it's a citizen, a member of the philanthropic community, a member of the business community, and we've been able to reach out and build the kind of coalitions that are necessary to move the city forward.
Dornfeld?
Me? Okay. I'm not sure what it takes to be a mayor. I've never been in politics before. Most of the jobs I've started out not knowing anything about it and became really good at those jobs. I love the city of St. Paul. I've been here all my life. And, you know, I guess it just goes when you're elected to find out how to run the city of St. Paul. I know that you need to listen to everybody, not just the big businesses and all that stuff. Need to hear everybody's voice, and with that, I'll pass.
Hi, my vision, I guess, for the city of St. Paul would be first one thing, and that's giving people a voice. I'm going to work on your behalf. I'm here to work for you. What the community wants, what the community needs, what your priorities are. I listen to what the community wants across the board. You're the ones who need to be represented. I'm here for you. I'm working on your behalf, and that's the biggest and most important thing when I become mayor, is to do everything in my power to make this city the best city possible. We treat people fairly. We treat people equally. We need to have a safe environment. We need to provide livable wage jobs. People need livable wage jobs. That's a big, big issue right now across the board in the city of St. Paul. We need to find a way to produce jobs. As a business owner, 20 years self-employed, I can produce jobs. We can put people back to work, and that's what we need to do. We need a safe environment. Our children, when they go to school, need to feel safe. They need to be encouraged and loved. Our kids are everything. It all begins with children. If I can't emphasize enough tonight, I want everyone to know that children are the most important thing that I want to work and try and make sure that they have everything they need. We have an educational gap that needs to be closed, and we're going to work on that. We need to work with all the different communities and diverse backgrounds that we have. We have many different cultures, and I've been welcomed by many. We have the Hmong, we have the African American, Latino, the Asian, Chinese. All these different communities need to be respected, listened to, and all of them deserve an equal opportunity. We need to give these people a voice. Very important. And if I can't communicate with that person or that group, I believe it's important we should try to create a liaison that will work with that community, and then that person can work on our administration to make sure that we're doing things that we have to do to make sure everyone feels appreciated in the city. We need to respect one another again and give each other the common courtesy, and that's so important. This will be the best city if we do that.
Ms. Anderson?
The mayor's office, don't underestimate me. I'm an old timer. I'm good at legal research. I'm good on the computer with PDF files. And I'm telling you, I'm sick and tired of the secret deals that go down. Now, the city council, which you say you're a part of, but the mayor has the veto power. Any resolution stealing your home, condemning your house on a window, and I've got to say, is Ron Joe Adams a write-in candidate? Is he in the audience tonight? He could have taken my spot. You got an 80-year-old man that he lived in his home for 20 years, and he's living in a tent outside in this weather. This is unheard of, unheard of. And Coleman, when you pass the resolutions, approving the city council resolutions without long-form complaints, this has got to cease and desist. The mayor has abused his fiduciary duties. He's abused his trust. And when congratulations, you're going to be on the National League of Cities. Excuse me. The League of Minnesota Cities, you've got to understand, that is your insurance trust. Any claim you have against the city, and you're paying out all these lawyers, you're paying out all these claims, it's our money. Your conflict on a nonprofit organization And congratulations, I don't know how you can be mayor and be the vice president of the National League of Cities. I wouldn't have the time. I have the time to devote full-time to being a mayor, separation of powers of government, exercise the veto power, and this city council, I watched it last night on this golf course. I mean, we're $1 million a year in debt over golfing, and yet they're gonna throw down money for the ballpark. I have to stop.
Okay, this topic has been raised by a couple of the candidates already, but let's talk a little bit about diversity. And when we talk about that, maybe you could fold in the question that somebody gave us about underachieving schools and what's happening to the schools, because I think some of that is part and parcel of the same thing. So talk a little about the diversity in this community, and especially if you yourself have had some direct impact in that area. And we'll start with you, Mr. Dornfeld.
Well, let's see. I was on a committee for Ramsey County parks that had, it was called the Mighty Kids Program, and they taught children of I don't know how to explain it, but that are underprivileged to learn how to skate and play hockey. That's about all I've got to say about diversity, but we did a really good job, and it's too bad that it's not around anymore. But they would give the kids equipment to learn how to skate and play hockey, and it was a good deal. I enjoyed being at it, and I don't even know where I'm going with this, but I'm nervous as all heck, and
That's okay.
I've never done this
You're
before.
doing okay. Good for you. Give it to him.
I just know that, like, in the schools and stuff, that we need to hold the parents and the students to a higher standard. I know there's a thing called big brothers and big sisters, and I think that people should start to get involved with all the kids that have these problems, that don't have fathers or mothers or whatever it is. Because like Mr. Holden said, our future is our children. And those are the people that are going to be in the world doing the stuff that we need them to do. And a lot of things that I do, I donate my time if I can, and I don't have the money to donate to all these charities and stuff like that. But if anybody ever asks me, I will help. Like they had a. Oh, sorry. Okay. Go ahead.
Diversity, that's a big issue in St. Paul, a big issue. We've been campaigning real hard for the last year, and I've had the opportunity to meet with the Hmong community, the Somali community, the African American community, the Chinese, the Vietnamese, and each of these communities have said one thing to me. They've said the same thing. We haven't been listened to. We haven't been acknowledged. They don't feel like they're a part of our community. And that's a problem. We need to find a way to make these people feel like they're a part of our community. We need to embrace one another, work with one another. The only way we're going to fix problems that we have are to work together. That's why I want to repeat, I am not about party. I'm about everyone. I'm everyone's mayoral candidate. I'm here for everybody in the audience. And I want every one of you to know in this room that if you have an issue, I would be willing to sit down and listen to your issue. I went to the city and I approached the city and wanted to have my voice heard. Never did I get a call back. I'm a business owner, 15 years in business on University Avenue, and they didn't have the common courtesy to respond to my calls. We don't solve problems that way. We need to work with one another, respect one another, and listen to every person in the city. We have a lot of cultural differences, And that's very, very sometimes hard to get around. We need to listen to one another, and if we do that, we will solve the problems. Thank you.
Okay, I'm a product of St. Paul Central High School. I'm not going to tell you when I graduated. Well, in 1956. I'm 74 and a half. How did I get here, and how did I get so old so fast? I believe in homeschooling. When I went to St. Paul Central, we had what's called on-the-job training. And then I met an older man, 10 years older, and I got married and, I worked at the Emporium and different things like that. I really believe we should have homeschooling. Let the parents be responsible for their children. As a registered gun owner, member of the NRA, I believe that these shootings in the schools, let the principal or let the school teachers have a gun. Or let them have a camera, which is a gun stronger than whatever. But all these shootings that are going on in the school, and then they bring out bullying, I blame the parents. I do believe we should go back to homeschooling, and as far as diversity, the budget for the school has gotten way out of proportion. And if I'm hollering too loud, I don't know if you can hear me. I'm a little hard of hearing on this ear, so, dumb, deaf, and blind or whatever, but I'm not dumb, believe me. Don't ever underestimate the seniors. Oh, you rascal, but don't ever underestimate us. And the reason it's so bright in here, it's cataracts. Anybody that's light sensitive. Okay, I believe the kids, they're not taught the Constitution. We don't teach our kids the Constitution. Let's get back to the basics, reading, writing, and arithmetic. Okay? Thank you.
Really, from the time that Pigs Eye Prant moved into a cave on the banks of the Mississippi River, diversity has been the strength of the city of St. Paul. Whether it's the strength of the Latino community on the west side, now on the east side, the Hmong community, and the incredible richness that they bring to University Avenue. Even the Irish have contributed a thing or two over the years. The freed slaves that moved to St. Paul to form the AME Church that just celebrated its 150th anniversary. That has been a part of what the city of St. Paul has always been, and it's why it's such a wonderful community. And the diversity has not decreased, it's increased. We now have almost 100 languages that are spoken in our schools. That's a positive thing. It creates some challenges, but every one of those kids is an ambassador to the world, to other parts of the world, so that they can tell the story of the city of St. Paul, and they can open up doors for businesses to trade with other parts of the world. And if we recognize that diversity is our strength, then we work to enhance it, not to diminish it. And so we've done an incredible amount of work because we know that we're not doing what we need to do by all of our diverse communities. When we see the achievement gap that we have in this community, we know that our work is not done or even close to being done. The difference between the rates of attainment for a white child in the school district in terms of reading and math versus an African-American child is 45% difference in terms of achievement. So if we're going to honor diversity, we need to actually work to close those kinds of gaps. And so that's why I've been involved with things like changing, one of the very first things that we did was change how our Human Rights Department interacted with the community and changed it to the Human Rights and Equal Economic Opportunity Department. So we've opened up pathways by creating programs like the EMS Academy, which is bringing kids into the medical and potentially the fire department in ways that they've never had opportunities to do that. We've opened up doors to new recruits in the fire department and the police department. I made it very clear to all of our department directors that diversity is going to be a part of what they do. I wish I had a little bit more time because this is a subject that I'm very passionate about.
Would you explain what EMS is?
Emergency
Medical Services, and I believe my relative really got it started. But you explain what EMS is so they know.
There you go. You just did.
All right.
I just received another question here, and I'm going to throw this out to you, and because it's on the same topic, and maybe you might not need the full 2 minutes on this. You might use just one on each of these, but whatever. And we will start with you, Mr. Holden. But this question is talking about diversity too, but it's a little different slant. It says, okay, so our neighborhoods tend to be not so diverse. They tend to be segregated. What do you think about that, and what could you do to help move that maybe to a more diverse neighborhood?
That's an interesting question. again, we go back to the poverty issue. We have 1 in 4 people living in poverty throughout the city, and that's a big issue that we need to address with livable wage jobs. I was in a meeting probably 3 months ago, and I don't even recall the actual date, but it had to do with the light rail construction. And the master plan for the light rail construction, and I just found out about this the day that I was in the meeting, was to bring an additional 4,500 low-income houses up and down the avenue, on top of what we already have. We already have a tremendous amount of low-income houses. Now, in my eyes, I think that that might not be a real good idea. I think we may need to spread things out, have a balance, so that we don't have the segregation, that we don't run into these issues where we have pockets of people that are just struggling to survive, because you're going to have a lot of issues. We need to spread it out across the board. And the people that are the leaders should be the ones that move in right to where the most difficult neighborhood is. Those are leaders. The people that will get out and lead by example. They'll go into the places where the difficulties are. That's what we need as leaders, people that lead by example. And I really believe some of the issues, again, they all go back to the issue of poverty. We need to find a way to promote jobs, but that's a great question. Thank you so much.
Ms. Sharon?
All right, I'll try to read this to you. There's a case in the United States Supreme Court called Magner versus Gallagher, USSC 10-132. Okay, and then there's another, Frederick Newell, a minister. He was a black minister and a small business owner in St. Paul, had spent almost a decade working to improve economic opportunities for low-income residents in his community in 2009. He filed a whistleblower lawsuit alleging that the city of St. Paul had received tens of millions of dollars of community development funds, including stimulus funding, by improperly certifying its compliance with federal law. Coleman, these are serious charges I've made against you. High crimes and misdemeanors, and you're not answering them. You're doing nothing at all about it. That's why I popped for $500 out of my cremation money to bring this out. I've been tracking that real estate case since 2004. My home on Summit Avenue was illegally taken from me. All right, I'm a white, average woman, widowed, but following this, including by November of 2011, Newell had spent over 2 years discussing his case with career attorneys in HUD and U.S. Attorney's Office and on and on. These three entities, which have invested a substantial amount of time and resources in Newell's case, regarded this as a strong case potentially worth as much as $200 million for taxpayers and recommended that the federal government join the suit. And then it goes on, and they made their secret deals and they got out of it. Don't underestimate what I'm talking about. I got 30 seconds left. Do your own research. Check your taxes. And we do have an influx of everybody. I'm sick and tired of I'm the, wrecking ball. I'm not Siley Myris, but I'm the wrecking ball of Coleman's demolitions. I think she'd be more beautiful if she had more clothes on. Anyhow, but I gotta stop. I made you laugh.
I'm never going to get that image out of my head. Never. One of the things that Superintendent Silva of the St. Paul School District did was really kind of looking at how our schools, integration was occurring in our schools, looking to try to figure out how we could get back to more neighborhood-based schools. And in the process of that, one of the things that we discovered is there was actually more natural integration when we went back to neighborhood schools than when we had magnet schools, because our neighborhoods are, in fact, very diverse neighborhoods. You go to Frogtown, you go to the east side, you go across the west side, you go to any neighborhood in this community, and there is natural diversity that occurs there. The challenge that we have is within those neighborhoods, even though we live in proximity to each other, we don't necessarily interact with each other. Whether it's in our churches, it's often been said that one of the most segregated places are the lunchrooms in our schools. The lunch tables, kids are not interacting as much as they should with each other. And we clearly know that one of the biggest challenges to having truly wonderfully kind of diverse and strong neighborhoods is that our communities are not doing equally well. And so that's why we work so hard on creating opportunities for folks. When we kind of revamped how we did contracts in the city of St. Paul through our work with the Human Rights and Equal Economic Opportunity Department, it was very specifically to say we're not doing what we need to do, whether it's a city contract or creating other opportunities for diverse businesses, for minority-owned businesses, for women-owned businesses. And so when we went about that task, we have actually blown the door off the joint, as they say, or the roof off the joint, in terms of meeting, and not just meeting kind of minimal goals, but exceeding very aggressive goals in terms of opening doors to people of color to work on our projects. One of the very specific criteria that we had on the regional ballpark construction, and the firm that was going to do that and ultimately went to Ryan, was to say that they have to prove to us that they have the ability to exceed very aggressive diversity goals and making sure that the workforce on that site reflects the diversity of our community. And we're doing it across the board.
Now it's me. I think the problem with today's society and getting the diverse people together is that there is just way too many things going on. Nobody has time to do anything with everybody else. It's just like I'm a Mason, and we have a hard time finding people to come into Lodge. And we have a diverse deal where we have people of color that belong to a thing called Prince Hall. And I have really good friends with that. But, you know, I think it all starts out to try to get the community together would be National Night Out. That's a good place to start. You know, there's a lot of good retired people that could be tutoring. My mom does a lot of tutoring with kids. When she was in Arizona, she was there for 2 months, and she went and helped some Indian school out with the tutoring and stuff like that. And I think that's a good place to start, is to have you know, people help you know, tutoring and stuff. That's a good way to get to know some of the people. And I don't know where I'm going with this one either, but you know, I'm trying, and I will end with that.
Okay, we're going to switch gears a little bit, and we're going to talk about budget and money and
boy.
taxes and all those awful things. I used to work for the Minnesota Department of Revenue. My goodness, it put a damper on the conversation every time I mentioned that. So let's talk about how hard it is to put together a good budget and what are the components that you need to consider. There was a little interest in tax increment financing, and Mr. Coleman, there was a little thing about, somebody said $9 million was just found to help you pay for a stadium. You might want to just chat a little bit about that when it comes to be your turn. And we will start with you, Ms. Sharon.
Oh, boy. Today's my dad's birthday. He would have been 96, so love you, Dad. He got me into politics. But when it comes to the budget, the city of St. Paul, they'll come, they'll steal your car, they'll shut your water off, and I've been victimized by this, believe me. And I'm going for a property tax refund, and they're refusing. I had to pay out $2,600 and some dollars in order to avoid a foreclosure. I mean, this is just unbelievable what our city council is passing. But the budget, I don't know, I almost don't want to follow in your footsteps, because I don't know how you can correct these millions of dollars that are being pushed off to the taxpayer. And watching the cable yesterday with the golf courses, Tim Hurley, financial director, he's going to go from this pot of money to that pot of money because the golf courses are losing $1 million a year. I mean, and then reading this that came from the House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform. This is federal. Darrell Issa, Chairman, Patrick McHenry, Senate Committee on the Judiciary, House Committee on the Judiciary, Bob Goodlatte, and he's one of my Facebook friends. But I mean, it's just the money that the city is spending, bonded indebtedness. I mean, my God, liars figure and figures lie. Chris, I know you're trying to do a good job, but somebody's got to be accountable with our money. And when it comes to stealing my car out of my yard with disabled plates on it in 2006, And then they put it on the tax rolls at 12% interest. And then I'm in a foreclosure. I mean, let's get real. And the buck stops at the mayor's office. When the city council makes a resolution to deny everybody, you're culpable.
So the city of St. Paul is a large business, really, when you look at it. It's got a $520 million yearly budget. It's got almost 3,000 employees. It's got 11 or 12 or 13 different lines of work that we do, from police officers and firefighters to parks to libraries to public works. $240 million of the budget, or 230 to 240 of it, is the general fund, which is where your property taxes go into. It's a complex business operation that you run when you're the mayor of the city of St. Paul. And when I took office in 2006, the previous administrations had been using a lot of gimmicks and a lot of devices, a lot of cost shifts to budget. And so it was very important for me when we took office to bring financial stability to the city of St. Paul, to have a structurally balanced budget. And by that I mean not having permanent revenue sources pay for permanent expenditures and not dipping into various pools to make the problem worse into the future. And I brought together a group of business leaders, CEOs, Doug Baker from Ecolab, Bob Senkler from Securian, Sister Andrea from St. Kate's, a couple of others, Pam Wheelock, who was the former finance director of the state of Minnesota, and Mary Brainerd from Health Partners. And they spent 6 months with me at the very beginning to give me an outsider's perspective, a business perspective, a kind of an innovation perspective on how we could run the budget, the city's budget better. And so we put a plan together to have a structurally balanced budget in 4 years. And then we worked that plan. And as a result of that, we came into structural balance within 3 years, not 4 years. And the result of that has been to have a lot more stability, even though we've had a very difficult economy over these last 7 years. Even though we've had cuts to state aid over a vast majority of that time. In 1 year, we had a $15 million budget cut from state and local government aid at 2/3 of the way through our budget year. But because we had been very fiscally conservative and very cautious, we were able to ride that out without huge fluctuations in service delivery or the number of employees or some of the things that we did. It's a complex animal, but it's if you look to the future, you can steer the ship of the city fairly well.
Thanks, Chris. Okay, he could probably say all that stuff because he knows all about it. He's been the mayor for, what, 8 years now? Is it?
7.5.
7.5, okay. And,
But who's counting?
Yeah. And, somebody that does a budget needs to look at what he's got to work with, figure out what he can do with that budget, and he has done a fairly good job. And there are some things that I don't understand, but like, for instance, we have a right-of-way fee. They say that we're not raising any taxes, but then you get this right-of-way fee, and then it goes up, and then, but we didn't raise any taxes. But actually, he made a new fee for us, and it's like a tax. And I'm sure we need that right-of-way fee, but the street maintenance only gets 53%. 53%? Is that what it is? I think it is, 53% of it. And street maintenance does a lot of stuff. It repairs roads. It seal coats roads. It takes care of all the winter stuff, snow plowing and all that stuff, and that's expensive stuff. But if you look at our fleet of trucks, they're from the 1990s. And every county or city you look at, they have brand new vehicles. We buy all the old stuff. And I'm not sure how the budget works on that, but it's it's the antique road show. Come on down and look at it in the yard sometime. It's almost embarrassing.
Oh, God.
Yeah, with that, I'll pass.
Well, Kurt, I guess I'm going to have to disagree with you on the fact that Chris is doing a good job with the budget. Across the board, the City of St. Paul services, in my eyes, have gone backwards We're not doing better with a lot of things. We have streets, potholes, we have crime, we have police involved with all kinds of lawsuits, legal fees that we're paying out. We're losing our city inspectors. Our health inspectors have been lost to the state of Minnesota. Our purchasing department's been lost. We've lost businesses across the board. The city has lost businesses across the board. Chris said that we wouldn't lose one business due to light rail construction. Well, we've lost over 100. And I happen to be one of the people that are on the avenue, and I'm paying an additional assessment fee on my alley right now for what I don't know. If you go down our alley, it's almost like the worst of the worst in LA or Chicago. I mean, graffiti everywhere. So what are they doing for these assessments, these additional fees that they're billing us for? Absolutely nothing. What they're doing is they're spending money on a ballpark, a Saints ballpark, where we don't have a commitment from the Saints. We haven't taken a vote from the people. The people haven't had a vote on whether they want the ballpark. First and foremost, whether they want it. Second, if they want the ballpark downtown, or whether they'd like to keep it where it is now, in the Hamlin Midway. People were never given a voice. This was the mayor's pet project. We're closing kids' parks and rec centers across the city right now to fund a ballpark for multimillionaires. Where are our priorities? Where are our kids? Where are our kids when this is happening? Our kids are left out on the street to fend for themselves. We need to get back to the basics, folks, and listen to one another. What are our priorities, first and foremost? Let's put our priorities together. Let's talk about what makes the most sense for all. Not ballparks, seasonal ballparks, for not even a minor league ball team downtown in our capital city. That's an embarrassment. Thank you.
Well, we'll move on to another not controversial subject. How about the Green Line? And what's... And, we get to start with you, Mr. Coleman.
Anything in particular?
Well, just, somebody did ask about what you think's going to happen, what your vision is of University Avenue, how it's going to look in 10 years from now.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
First of all, the discussion about Central Corridor, now known as the Green Line, has been part of the conversation of the city of St. Paul for almost 30 years. When I was on the district council in Frogtown in the early 90s, we were talking about that. We were talking about how important it was to connect our two, the capital city and downtown St. Paul with downtown Minneapolis, the University of Minnesota, the State Capitol Complex, and all the businesses along University Avenue. And so after 30 years, we finally are very close to having the first train, bringing the first passengers along that line, and transforming a part of St. Paul that had been neglected, really quite frankly, since the freeway was constructed. But we said from the beginning, it wasn't enough to just move people from point A to point B. This had to be about rebuilding community. And we did that, and we set out to we put a plan on paper to say, how are we going to make sure we maximize development opportunities along the corridor? We already have $1 billion of projects underway or about to begin along the corridor, and it's just the tip of the iceberg. We have Habitat for Humanity building their new headquarters on Pryor and University. We have Episcopal Homes doing a $40 million, Marvin, expansion that will provide great residence opportunities for seniors on University Avenue. We have new businesses opening up. We have Jim Stopelstead, who's a great developer, an East Side boy, who is redoing the post office and said very clearly, if it wasn't for the city of St. Paul making these kinds of investments like the light rail line, I wouldn't be looking at reinvesting and reopening the post office and turning it into 250 units of housing. The Pioneer Endicott building and 250 units of housing there. All across the Central Corridor line, we're just beginning to see what we can do to change that community. It's been a difficult process. You don't do the largest public infrastructure project in the history of the city of St. Paul without it being a challenge. But we set out to minimize the impacts of that. We put the largest package together that I am aware of anywhere in the country, $14 million to assist businesses all across the corridor to help them through construction. We did advertising for them. We helped sign to try to keep this open as much as possible to the businesses. It was a challenge, but St. Paul is way better for that project.
Dornfield?
I'd like to say something about the railroad, or the rail, or whatever you want to call it, because I don't think it's gonna be worth it. They've narrowed the streets. They have no snow plan. They have these things they put, they're gonna put trees in that drainage water goes into. I'm sure there'll have to be palm trees because the salt will also go in there.
Palm trees.
It goes on and on. There's nothing good about the train, or whatever you want to call it. It's going to just about a ghost town. There's the back to the 50s, which is a big deal out at State Fair, used to drive their cars up and down there. They took that away from them. There's really no place to park anymore. It goes on and on. I mean, this thing will never pay for itself. It will never pay for itself. It'll be lucky if it pays for the engineer. I don't know. It's just like government throughout the United States. They just keep on spending monies on their own projects. Like, for instance, the Saints Stadium. You know, I just don't know what to say. They just keep on spending mine, yours, everybody's money. And it's I just don't understand why they want to spend money on stuff that is never going to work. And I don't know. I'll pass on that.
Kurt, I agree with you there. I have to say the reason they spend money on these things without taking a vote, in my eyes, is very unfortunate. When we do a ballpark without taking a vote, not acceptable. Spending and committing $24 million of the city of St. Paul taxpayer dollars to a ballpark when we're closing kids' parks and rec centers is not acceptable. $28 million of the state is paying for the ballpark. No commitment from the Saints, who are, by the way, multimillionaires. The question we were talking about went back to the Green Line. We talk about businesses up and down University Avenue. Well, we've lost a tremendous amount of businesses. Parking, we've lost over 1,000 parking spaces. This was underplanned. This project wasn't planned thoroughly with businesses in mind. As a business owner, I collected with 150 other businesses in a group called UABA, and we asked for 3 things: signage, parking, and access. All extremely important when you're trying to conduct a business. We weren't granted any of the 3. And the money that Mr. Coleman talks about giving out was peanuts compared to what Seattle provided their businesses when they did the light rail construction in Seattle. They gave businesses $150,000 to survive the light rail construction there, which didn't last 4 years. We've got 4 years here, and we were granted $20,000 if we qualified. This is the mayor's job, to look out for the businesses up and down the avenue, to make sure that not one business closes. He did a terrible job. Absolutely terrible job. I've called the mayor personally, no return phone calls. That's why I'm here tonight, folks. I want to give you a voice. I want you to have a voice. I want you to know that I have your backs, and I'm here to listen to what you want. That's the way this is supposed to work. I'm supposed to be here working for you, not the other way around. We have all kinds of businesses up and down the avenue that have closed. When he mentions some of the things that are happening and talks and boasts about some of these projects that are taking off, these are being subsidized, meaning they're being paid for by a lot of assistance from the city, from the state, and from the federal government. And that means the taxpayers across the board are paying for these projects.
I'm going to stop you now.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you again.
Well, I'm blowing the whistle, as usual. Qui-tam means whistleblower. Okay. Since you stole my car out of my yard with disabled plates, I've had to take the bus. And I've just recently, Metro Mobility. but that's kind of expensive. Anyhow, when you take that 16 bus, we've got a 94 bus that goes from here to there real fast. I've talked to all the bus drivers. Talk to your bus drivers. Central Rail or Green Line or whatever they want to call it are they going to stop at every stoplight? A bus has to stop at certain stoplights and let them out. I mean, the whole planning. And let's get into the Met Council, which is an unelected body. And of course, that's run by Susan Haig, which is Habitat for Humanity. And you said Habitat for Humanity is going to be on University Avenue. You're making secret deals with her again. And her husband is Judge Greg Johnson, who, there's so many stories I could write a book on this stuff. They threw me in St. Peter's State Hospital for 94 days and $94,000 that who paid it? Where did the money go? Okay, with Habitat for Humanity, Met Council, run by one woman, Susan Haig, former county commissioner, who embezzled $94,000 of medical with me. I'm the only certified sane candidate around, you know. But it isn't really funny. In a way, it's an EIS, Environmental Impact Statement, EAS, Environmental Assessment Worksheet. These weren't done. Central Corridor, it's goofy. I mean, ask the bus drivers. It will be the biggest, it's the train to Buchenwald or Auschwitz, as far as I'm concerned. Thank you. Oh, well.
Okay, we're gonna move on to some other topic. Actually, you know, here we have 4 candidates for mayor in St. Paul, and you probably are all well aware, there are 35 in Minneapolis. Can you imagine? Huh. So there's several of you that had questions about, okay, whoever wins this election, how are you going to work with whoever wins Minneapolis election, and what are your priorities going to be? How's that going to work out for you? And we will start with you, Mr. Dornfeld.
Geez, thanks. I haven't thought about this one. I guess I'll just, and I'm sure it depends on who wins, too.
Yeah, well, that's a good question.
Wow. I guess I'll reach out my hand and I will talk to the person that wins, and however we can work together, I will work together with them. And it's as easy as that, I guess. With that, I'll pass.
Okay.
Well, when I become the mayor of the city of St. Paul November 5th, with your support and your help, I will reach across and I will talk to the people in Minneapolis and let them know that we're not going to take a back seat to Minneapolis anymore. We're going to live for St. Paul, and we're going to do everything in St. Paul to make St. Paul the best city in America. All right? We're going to lead by example. We're not going to do projects that aren't forethought, well-planned. We're not going to put money where we don't need to put money. We're going to start to use some common sense and live within our means and take a vote and ask the people what they want across the board. If the people want a ballpark, then we build a ballpark. But it's not going to be something I'm going to dictate. I'm here to work for the people. And I'm going to work for the people, and I'm going to reach across to Minneapolis, and I'm going to let them know we're coming. Because we're going to fill our downtown, and it's going to be packed. We're not going to have a vacancy rate like we have it now. We're going to have a thriving downtown, and we're going to lead by example. Minneapolis isn't going to be the leader anymore. We're going to take advantage of what's going on, and we've got the people here. We've got the smart people here. We're going to be the leader. The capital city is going to be the capital city, and we're going to take care of business in the capital city. Thank you.
Instant runoff voting. All right. You have 35 candidates in Minneapolis at a $20 filing fee. Our school board candidates are $2. I popped for $500. You didn't think that I would do it because you reduced me to poverty after 30 years when you were a clerk for Judge Doris Huspanity, stealing my home on Summit Avenue. But we've got to make it accountable. The Twin Cities, and I don't care if you get mad at me or not, or boo me or whatever you want to do, the truth will set us free. St. Paul and Minneapolis are like Sodom and Gomorrah as far as I'm concerned. Really. And I'm a straight person. I'm so upset over a lot of different things. I'm gearing up to run for Attorney General again. You know, I think the election is already rigged. And if Betty Hodges, who's also with the League of Minnesota Cities, and Chris Coleman get elected, I honestly believe that the mainframes, get into your computer, do whatever you have to do. I think the election is already cut and dried because of this secret deals with Tom Perez, who's now the Secretary of Labor. They've got their deals and their ducks in a row, but I don't care. At least, thank God, thank you all for coming today. And at least I've had a podium to speak from, get the issues out there, vote your conscience, vote down, you know, like in a line, and don't vote for it like Sharon Anderson in all 4 places, because then it's thrown out. And please, for God's sakes, write in Ron Arjo Adams, the 81-year-old man that he's a write-in candidate, and God bless him. They kick him out of his home. He's got a hearing November 20th. And I'll tell you, anybody that's condemned, kicked out of their homes, they are entitled to just compensation. And I'm putting it to you right now, Chris Coleman, you get Arjo back in his home, period.
Sharon, it's just a typical politician. You haven't even gotten elected mayor, and you're already running for attorney general.
Well, right.
So,
Amen. That's
know,
a good comeback.
Thank you. So when I was elected in '05, one of the first things that happened was Mayor Rybeck came over from Minneapolis, and we had lunch over at DeGidio's. Since that time, probably the single comment that I have received more often than any other comment was the appreciation that people have that Minneapolis and St. Paul are finally working together to promote the Twin Cities together as opposed to fighting each other. To recognize that our competition isn't Minneapolis, our competition is other cities across the country, whether it's Denver or Portland or Seattle or Dallas, and it's quite frankly, cities across the globe. And unless we work together to showcase what we have in this region, we will never be able to succeed in the way that we are capable of succeeding. Because we have some of the greatest assets of any region that I've ever traveled to or have ever heard of or read about. And when we promote that together, when we work together, it is absolutely, we have a lot of success. Mayor Rybeck and I just traveled over to London, where we were able to talk with business and financial magazines to talk about bringing businesses to the Twin Cities, not to Minneapolis or St. Paul, but to the Twin Cities region. Because when we grow the pie of the entire region, then we all do better, and each side of that region will do well. And so I'll work very closely. I'm not sure how I'll work with a member of the Pirate Party if they get elected, but assuming it's one of the main candidates, I've had good working relationships with all of them.
No, it's the gypsy.
I used to cook French fries for Mark Andrew out at the State Fair when I was 14 years old. I've had a good working relationship with Betsy Hodges. Don Samuels is one of the most decent human beings I've ever known and had a pleasure to work with. Across the board, the folks over there are very strong, and one of the main things that they talk about is the importance of continuing the partnership with this region.
Okay. Let's switch gears a little bit, and we'll talk about infrastructure. So the question related to how do you plan to overhaul the infrastructure, water, sewer, streets, that sort of thing. And we get to start with you, Mr. Holden.
Well, the infrastructure right now, in my eyes, I know that we talk about some of the issues that we've just talked about with transit. I believe we spent a tremendous amount of money in that area, $1 billion. And I think before we do anything with regard to major expenditures here in the near future, we need to try and digest what we've just undertaken. People are talking about different ideas with streetcars and transit up and down Robert Street, even transit up and down Grand Avenue. I'd like to see us try and digest what we've done and use some common sense before we do anything additional. Take a vote on anything that we do, find out what the issues are. If there's a real issue with our sewer or with our streets, we work on those things. We talk to that department head and we find out what the problem is. If they can't get the job done, then we'll find somebody that will get the job done. We don't need to be driving on potholes in November from last year. That's not acceptable. We can do a lot of things, but we need to listen to the community. What are the priorities that the community would like? What is it that you see as the biggest issues that need to be dealt with and addressed? That's what I want to do. I want to listen to what the community wants. When we find those things out, we do our job. We find out what department might need to be held accountable, and if we have issues with our departments, if we need to take and actually do an audit of a department, we will do that. I want to know where our money's going. I want to run this city effectively and save the people money if we can save the people money, and do it the most effective and positive way we can possibly do it. But I need to listen to what the community says. If the streets are the issue, let's find out what's going on with the streets. If it's the water, we talk to our water department. Across the board, we have a lot of different services that we provide. We're going to do our very best to listen to the community and what your wants, needs, and desires are. When I know what those are, I will do everything in my power to make sure that we take care of that issue, whatever it might be. So if it's policing, we get on the police. We'll work with the police. We'll talk to the police about what's going on. Community input. The reality is it's all about the people. You have a voice here, and I want you to know that. I need your vote November 5th. You all have a voice here. I need your vote November 5th. You can take this city back if you want to. It's your chance right now to take this city back November 5th. Thank you.
Infrastructure. Okay, water, sewer, streets. 30 years ago, my mother, God rest her soul, Bernice A. Peterson, ran for mayor. 1983. We were exposing district heating. Subsequently, my mother died. I was running for city council against Jim Scheibel. I ended up in jail. My husband freaked out. I had to vote from jail at that time over exposing district heating. Just recently, you've refranchised for another 25 or 30 years district heating, which is a nonprofit like Xcel Energy. I mean, some of this high-powered, white-collar, nonprofit, tax-exempt financing. I don't know how you can sleep at night, because it's just with this, they're robbing Peter to pay Paul. It's just unbelievable. And then be careful of smart meters. Since I've got allegedly glaucoma from a laser that was botched with the flap or whatever, but now it's my mission in life to support marijuana. Why not have marijuana, medical marijuana, and I'd like to legalize prostitution. Well, why not? The cops should go after white-collar crimes like pedders. I mean, that's where the money is at. Instead, they go after the little doobie or joint. I don't even smoke a cigarette. And it's just unbelievable. But the nonprofit, cops should have cameras. I mean, it's just, the cops are going after little frivolous stuff instead of going after white-collar crime. And that's where I'm at. Of course, the mayor appoints the police chief. I do think Tom Smith is doing a good job. I will give you credit there. But the east side has such major problems, and it's, God, let these kids smoke a little marijuana or something. What's the difference? Cigarettes have strychnine in it and whatever. I gotta stop now.
The most important thing you can do to maintain your infrastructure is to keep having a regular schedule of replacement and repair and getting out and ahead of the deal. That's why we have the Residential Street Vitality Program, which goes out every year and does a different section, multiple sections of the city of St. Paul. We're continually working with the water department to make sure that we're replacing lines as we go. You cannot replace thousands of miles of streets that we have in the city of St. Paul, or thousands of miles of sewer lines or water lines overnight. But you do keep on top of it, and then when emergencies arise, then you deal with those. We spend $17 million a year alone in the city of St. Paul on street maintenance. We fill 300,000 potholes in the city of St. Paul during the course of an average year. So it's a massive undertaking in a city the size and in a built environment. I've actually been down in some of the sewers where you can still see the hand picks when they used to carve out sewers by hand. So those sewers that were built well over 100 years ago are still in active use, and so it's keeping in front of it. But we also have another challenge that's really, I think, very significant for infrastructure, not just in St. Paul, but across the globe. Because of climate change and because of unprecedented levels of storms and rains that are overwhelming kind of sewer systems that were built for historic norms, we've got a challenge in this country and in this globe. Working with the National League of Cities to develop a plan for resilient cities. In other words, how do cities adapt their infrastructure to some of the challenges that they're facing? You saw this with Katrina. You saw this with Hurricane Sandy. And it's going to continue to be a challenge for the city of St. Paul. But in terms of maintaining and preserving infrastructure, slow and steady does win the race at the end of the day.
Yeah, I've been in those sewers also. I took my test for down in Holland Prospect. That's one of the fun ones. You'd go down, I don't know how many feet. And it's kind of scary. Anyways, I do know a lot about street maintenance. I work at that division. It does take a lot to keep our roads up and all that stuff. There's a RSVP, was supposed to be done in 2016. I'm not sure if that's been pushed forward more, but a lot of our streets still have no curb and gutter, and they're oiled. And it's really hard to keep up with all the stuff, with the amount of people we have. We've lost a lot of people in street maintenance, and it just keeps on getting smaller. People retire, they don't replace them. People leave to go to other jobs, they don't replace them. I think Little Canada tried to privatize. They found out that it was a shoddy job, that the people that they hired did a shoddy job. So now Little Canada is trying to get back into the public work business, and it's a struggle for them to keep on buying all their, getting the new equipment and stuff like that. So I don't think privatizing would be the answer for the city of St. Paul. There's a lot of streets, and there's a lot of potholes, and you just have to keep working at it, I guess, to try to fill them. And with sewers and the water department, a lot of the stuff that happens with our streets is caused by the water department pipes and the sewer department pipes, undermining, we call it, which, stops right here.
Okay, let's talk about something that's maybe a little bit more fun. How about our parks and recreation facilities? So what would each of you do to make those a little bit better or make some improvements in those? And we'll start with you, Sharon.
Oh, I'm sorry. Parks and Rec. It's hard to say. Watching this with the golf courses, and we're $1 million a year deficit, I honestly don't know. We're taking from the kids, giving to corporate welfare. It's called disparative impact. And that's the case. It's called Mount Holly. Tom Perez is the Secretary of Labor. He's also the Assistant Attorney General. If he hears that case, and if he does another dirty deal with Mount Holly, with our parks and rec, it's just hard to, where's the money? We're taking from the kids and giving, like I said, to corporate welfare, and it's just so unfair. I just don't know how to address it. I know you're trying to do a good job, Chris Coleman, but you don't answer me. I have sent you emails, I have sent you legal stuff, and one of these days, it's gonna backfire, and I'm citing you for high crimes and misdemeanors, which is an impeachable offense. And some of this, it's treason. So Parks and Rec, I've got to be a little careful because relatives work there. And I don't want any reprisals. And I'll tell you, if any reprisals go against Kurt, Dornfield for being a candidate for mayor. You bet I'm on his side. I had reprisals when they shut my water off, steal my car. It's tough being up here, but for $500, I want my car back. So with Parks and Rec, it's, what do I say? They're trying to do a good job. I remember Butler with the trees? You know, they're tearing down trees and like Central Corridor, the Green Line or whatever. I like your comment about palm trees. And with the snow that's gonna go in there, the salt, I have to stop now.
You know, one of the things that's important in cities is to realize that parks and rec facilities and libraries are very different than they may have been 20 or 30 or 50 years ago. And we have to kind of adapt and use those facilities differently. Park recreation facilities can't just be a place where somebody throws out a baseball. They have to be centers of learning. They have to be places where kids can come in and feel safe, where a caring adult can work with them, where they can integrate education that takes place in the classroom into what's happening in the out-of-school time program. We have to create new centers of learning in our libraries where young children can be read to early, and continually invest in these things that are a very important part of the city of St. Paul. And any of us that grew up in St. Paul know how important our local neighborhood rec centers were to all of us. But again, very different places than they were when I was growing up. So we have continued to invest in it. And I want to be very clear, we are continuing to invest in our parks and our libraries in the city of St. Paul. We're in the process of building one of the most magnificent facilities that we will have in the city of St. Paul on the east side. The Payne, Maryland project is a $15 million combined recreation and library center in a neighborhood that is desperately in need of a first-class facility. But we combine those two because when we have the combined services, we create efficiencies, we give places for kids to not only play, but to learn, and real centers for the community, and that's why we've invested in that project. We're rebuilding our libraries. We'll spend $14 million in Hillcrest and Sunray libraries to make sure that they are first-class facilities that serve the needs of the neighborhood, that serve the needs of all of our diverse populations. The challenge was that in the early, when I first took office, we had 42 recreation centers in the city of St. Paul. We had more buildings per capita than I think any other city in the country, but we weren't doing the kind of programming in those facilities that was making a difference for children. And so by consolidating some of those centers, by focusing in on what happens in the centers as opposed to just the number of buildings that we have, we've been able to deliver better services for our children, and we're going to continue to do that.
It's me? Okay. I agree with Chris. 20, 30 years ago, it was a big difference in recreation stuff. Back then, we had volunteers that would come and help with stuff. They would flood the rinks, and they would help out with the kids. These days, you don't get that anymore. It's hard to find people to volunteer. It's a changing world. Kids play video games more than they play baseball. And I think the parks and recs do a good job trying to help the kids in the community. And I understand why some of these rec centers have been torn down and bathrooms have replaced them, because you don't have the volunteers anymore. And a good volunteer base makes a good rec type deal. And I think more people in St. Paul need to get out and volunteer. And with that, I'll pass.
Thank you. I agree with volunteering would be wonderful. I think that if we were to do some things, we need to keep the parks and rec centers open in my eyes. Chris said we had 42 when he started. I don't know how many there are now, but I know that we need every one of them because the kids need a place to go. We have a lot of seniors that I think if we were smart, we could try and implement and get the seniors to maybe be involved in some of these park and recreation centers. They can maybe go in and help some of these kids, maybe even with reading. If we would enhance and upgrade some of our Wi-Fi, we might even have the ability to do some of that kind of technology in some of our libraries and some of our recreation centers. Then these kids would want to go to these centers and utilize them. Let's do some of these things. Let's become a 21st century city. Let's upgrade our Wi-Fi. Parks and rec centers are so important. They actually facilitate and they complement the school system. They go hand in hand. Kids need to have a safe place to go after school on the weekends where they can encourage each other and they can become social with one another. Parks and rec centers are extremely important, folks. We're closing parks and rec centers because we're funding a multi-million-dollar ballpark from multimillionaires, which is unfortunate in my eyes. We've closed parks and rec centers. They say they don't have the funds for new equipment for the parks and rec centers. That's very, very unfortunate. These are kids that need a place to go. Parents that would like to take those kids to the park. There's no more park. It's gone. We need every park and rec center we can keep open. We need to work with our kids. We need to listen to our communities. We need a safe environment for our seniors and our kids to go and they can enjoy one another. The seniors can actually teach these kids things that maybe would be beneficial for everybody. Pass on a tradition. The parks and rec centers, again, in my eyes, are so important. They're as important as our schools. And we need to fund them. We need to do everything we can to make sure that they're safe. And we need to listen to the community when we do that. The kids need a place to go. They're not going to go down to the new ballpark downtown in St. Paul and watch the Saints. They're going to want to go to their neighborhood park and rec center and play ball or play on the computer or play on the Wi-Fi. That's what they're going to do. We need the parks and rec centers, folks. We can't afford to lose any parks and rec centers. It's so important. We need your vote November 5th. Thank you.
Okay, we've come to the end of the time that we can have for questions, so we're going to have the wrap-up by each of the candidates, and we're going to reverse the order that we did when they started, so we're just going to turn around. First will be last, and last will be first, sort of thing. So we're going to start with you, Mr. Holden.
Sure.
And this is your wrap-up, 2 minutes.
My wrap-up 2 minutes. Okay, well, I want to say again, thank you to everyone coming tonight. This is what it's all about, people. You need to be here. You need to listen and ask us questions. My door will always be open when I'm elected November 5th. You can come to me with any problem you have, and I will listen to you. I owe that to you. I'm working for you. Everything I do is going to be for the betterment of the city of St. Paul. I'm going to give you my all. I work hard, harder than most, and I'll tell you right now, I can do everything I can possibly do to, with you, with your input, we will make this the very best city in America. We need to work together, listen to one another, respect one another, and if we do those things, this will be by far the best city in the world to live in. We have to respect one another and give each other the common courtesy, like I mentioned before. I need your vote November 5th. I'm not about party, remember. I think party is the issue we have in St. Paul that's been an issue, and it's been going for 60 years. It's time to change this. It's time to take the control back and give everybody an equal opportunity, a voice, and a chance to be the best they can be in St. Paul. We need to live together, love one another, and do the best we can do. We also need to try and do what we can to promote business in St. Paul. I'm here for one reason. I'm here for you. I'll give you all I've got. November 5th, we need everybody to get out and vote. It is so important. So important. We need to take the city of St. Paul back, folks. You have the opportunity to do it. November 5th. If you don't go to the polls, you can't blame anyone but yourself. We need to get to the polls and vote. It's time for change. It's time to do what's right for the city and to take care of everyone and respect one another in this community. Thank you so much for coming, and I need your help November 5th. Thank you, people.
Mr. Dornfeld, we're going to go.
First of all, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for having this and to my opponents that showed up. And I'd also like to thank all the people that are here and the citizens of St. Paul. But I'm going to make this short and sweet. So, it's funny, I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and I said, my campaign has become like when Adam first saw Eve. He told her, you better back up because I'm not sure how big this thing's going to get. With that, I'll close.
You rascal. Oh, Lord.
Oh, God, you didn't just say that.
Oh, Lord.
So anyhow, thank you. I will agree with Kurt on thanking the League of Women Voters. Beverly, thank you for moderating the program tonight. In 2006, when I took office, one of the very first things I did was I reversed something that the previous mayor had done. He locked the door to the mayor's office. He closed the door, made it impossible for anyone, whether you were a council member or a citizen, to come back and talk to the mayor or the mayor's staff. It sent a very clear message that the mayor's office was not open to the community. The very first thing I did was I propped that door open, and it's been open ever since. And so whether you're a school group that comes in and wants to have a tour of the mayor's office, or you're a council member that wants to raise holy hell with the mayor or any of his staff, you have an open invitation to come in and talk to us. And when we did that, we opened up the full potential, I think, of the city of St. Paul to be at its very best. Because we're at our best when we work together. No one person, no one entity can do all the things that we need to do. But together, we built the light rail line. Together, we're creating renewed vitality in downtown St. Paul. Together, we're opening up doors of possibilities to close the achievement gap once and for all in the city of St. Paul. It's together that we do these things. I've been honored, as I said, to be the mayor of the city of St. Paul. This is the greatest job that I could ever imagine having, and it means a great deal to be a son of St. Paul. So I thank people as the mayor for the work that they do, but mostly I thank them as a kid who grew up in the city of St. Paul and as a father who raised his family in the city of St. Paul for all that everyone does to make this place a better community. I've been honored to have the support of so many of you and so many groups of folks and diverse groups of folks, because they know that when we work together, we're at our absolute best. Our work's not done, but I think St. Paul is at the strongest point it's been at in years, and it's only going to get better. I ask for your vote. I look forward to 4 more years as mayor of the city of St. Paul.
I appreciate everyone for coming, and thanks. Tomorrow's another day. We'll get up, we'll do our own little whatever we do. But I believe in term limits, Chris. And like Jesse Ventura, he wanted unicameral legislature. I mean, enough is enough, that old saying. I'm going to quickly read the summary, the conclusion of this federal. The quid pro quo has lasting consequences for the Department of Justice. Now, this is federal. The city of St. Paul and American taxpayers. In sacrificing Frederick Newell, he was the black minister, to protect an inchoate theory, the department weakened its own False Claims Act standards and created a large disincentive for citizens to expose fraud. Please vote your conscience. I would appreciate your vote because I am a whistleblower. I know how to write. I know how to put the needle in. And for all of us, for the public trust, for the public safety. The city of St. Paul likewise missed a tremendous opportunity to improve the economic opportunities available to the low and low-income residents that Newell championed. American taxpayers lost a good chance to recover as much as $200 million of fraudulently spent funds. Above all, however, the quid pro quo demonstrated that the Department of Justice, led by Assistant Attorney General Thomas Perez, who is now the Secretary of Labor, placed ideology over objectivity and politics over the rule of law. Thank you, God bless you, and drive carefully. I got to take the bus, or Kurt offered to give me a ride home. We meet, and are you single? I don't want your wife to get mad at me. But we do meet friends. And have we all had fun tonight? I hope so. Laughter is healing, and thanks again for coming.
Okay, before you all get up and leave, hang on a second. Let's give them a big round of applause.